Hello, Internet. Once again, this is Kopitiam Council, new week, new episode. And today we will be talking about our neighboring country. And they recently have the Prime Minister Adi. What happened in our neighboring country?
The neighboring country in question is Thailand, the Kingdom of Thailand, because we've covered it before when they had their last election, which we saw through popular vote that Move Forward party candidate Pita Limjaroenrat was supposed to be the prime minister-elect. However, through a series of all kinds of intrigue behind the back doors and all kinds of other interferences amounting to charges on his person, which you can agree or disagree are false or true, or whether or not these are legal. It has led to somewhat of a political instability in Thailand with a even new prime minister elect, which is actually the youngest ever prime minister, which is Paetongtarn Shinawatra. Which, if you know your Thai politics, you would know that this person is not just any other regular person. If you recognize the family name, this is the daughter of former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra as well. You know, I remember Haffiz always likes to say that in a way, Southeast Asia, we're always kind of in a cycle. We kind of go back to particular eras, and we're kind of back in the 90s era, which you see like with Anwar, with Bong Bong, with now Prabowo in Indonesia. Now in Thailand, we kind of see a return to form with former leaders, with Thaksin's daughter. So Hafiz, where can we go from here?
Yeah, now you cannot blame Jokowi to creating his own dynasty, isn't it?
Everyone's in on it.
Yeah, he looks
Southeast
around.
Asia is the story of dynasty.
He looks around. Even Singapore, Adi. Even Singapore. It's not an exception. Amazingly, even Singapore is not an exception to this. So when you look around in Philippines, in Thailand, in Malaysia as well, yeah, it's normal to have dynasty. So the critics that he has now trying to create his own dynasty is just uncalled for. I mean, from his point of view, of course, Jokowi. But more importantly, you mentioned she is the youngest ever prime minister at the age of 38 years old. Wow, Adi. Do you think could be a normal Thai girl at the age of before 40 could become a prime minister like that? Do you think?
I mean, it's very extraordinary because she never held any government position. She was never an elected representative. The only thing that she has to name, which is that she managed businesses that was in the family. If any of you know that the Shinawatra family is a very rich and wealthy elite level family, which we can associate with the elites over here in Malaysia. So that can give you an idea. So for example, let's say, that let's see, Najib's daughter, would suddenly say that I would like to become prime minister, and then somehow through statutory declaration or whatever mechanism, she becomes prime minister, right? This is a similar situation here that we're seeing in Thailand. And in a way, it's become, she's not just the youngest, also. She beat out, I think it's her auntie, I believe, Yingluck Shinawatra, which held the record for the youngest prime minister and first female prime minister. So now this is the second female prime minister ever for female prime minister in Thailand, and the youngest. So in a way, record breaking is somehow is rooted in the family as well. But I can imagine a lot of Thai people, at first they were like, we want someone young. Move Forward had the answer to that with Pita. Now we have kind of someone young, but someone who never had the credentials in government. So I would imagine that it's very confusing to weigh up options here, considering that in a way she's kind of this, in a way, the new Prime Minister-elect is kind of like the same cohort as Pita. They have similar views, a bit more liberal and progressive views in terms of policy, except for the contentious issue of less majest laws, which did land Pita in hot water. So this is a lot to take in for policy-wise. But I'm curious to see, will this new Prime Minister-elect have a lot of will be on a short leash, because we've already seen the father return to Thailand from exile after a military coup. So will this be a case of, okay, just follow what your elders and your seniors say, and then everything will be all right? Or will this be somehow what everyone hoped Pita would have done?
I mean, you mentioned that she never held any office beforehand. It's not just that. In fact, that she only enters politics 2 years ago in 2022. That's how short she was in politics, and suddenly, miracle after miracle, and happened. And look at where she is now. And you mentioned her auntie as well, Yingluck Shinawatra, and also you don't forget the other two Shinawatra also that previously in office as Prime Minister. Another one before Yingluck is the brother-in-law of Thaksin, and I don't think I can pronounce his name. And of course, Thaksin, that was ousted in 2008. So this is something that runs in the blood now for the Thaksin to become in power. And I don't think I believe the story, because there's a rumor saying that Thaksin didn't want his youngest daughter to be the prime minister. Well, this is very peculiar details. Out of all the accidental happening at the same time, he got the same day, not same day, maybe same weekend pardon from the court, as well as the prime minister of Sreta was kicked out of the government. So this is, you may call it a coincidence, but I think this is a deliberate planning by the. Of course, I cannot prove this because that would be insane to have that such a high secret level details. But as we look at these incidents unfold every day, you couldn't resist from questioning that this all planned from the day one. Like, why the former prime minister was convicted, so-called convicted charges, Pichit MP as a member of the cabinet. And if you read the verdict by the court, says that he deliberately doing this. It is totally out of the inexperience, because Sreta was a real estate tycoon. So he also didn't have, the excuse was he didn't know any better. I don't buy this, a little bit. Like, for a prime minister, of course you have your advisors right, left, and center. You can have the best lawyers in the country to advise you on such matter, and yet this is one of the huge reason by the Constitution Court to kick him out from the government. And moving forward from this, but it's not going to be easy for her as well, because junta lurking around behind the closet and waiting for every opportunity to just pounce on Paetongtarn, and of course, just like what they did to her auntie Yingluck and Thaksin. So this is nothing new in Thai politics. But also, Adi, this is not exclusively happening in Thailand as well. If you look at around the region, even in Malaysia, we have this love triangle kind of situation also. Like, it's just not between junta, the royalty loyalists, and also progressive, just like Pita there. So maybe in Malaysia we have a Perikatan Nasional and then BN or whatever, but they sort of represent the same thing as well. Like, if you talk about UMNO, these are the Malay supremacist supporters or whatever, and then we have our religious macho guy, PAS, and also PKR, the progressive, we so-called reformasi, but now they say reformati also. So these are the things that just taking a little bit there. So these are the things that are also happening in other regions of Southeast Asia. So Thailand's, but in Thailand, because of there is this mix of junta and monarchy loyalists, it's something different. Because when Move Forward Party also got this ban from Thai politics, one of the verdicts says that by proposing amendment to this law, you are trying to separate Thai people and its nature, the Thai nature. So if you read this sentence, there's nothing else. It means just like, don't touch this law. So anyone that try to doing it from the outside will be, will be done like this, just outright kick out from Thai politics. But if you're a government, you have no motivation, you have no incentive to do so, because this is the power that you have to mix with. You don't rule alone in Thailand. So the monarchy has pretty much a lot of says in Thai politics. Don't you think so, Adi?
Yeah, definitely. Compared to Malaysia, Thailand has a lot of quarters of government that's very much entrenched into the power system itself. Like, you have the military, then you have the monarch as well, which, like you said, no one rules alone in Thailand, even if you're elected to become the prime minister. So you have to walk the line, you have to toe the line with other interest groups. It's, in a way, I mean, I guess you can mirror it a bit to Malaysia as well. You have to play around with the capitalist elites as well if you want to be able to get enough support for your funding for your elections. So this has always been the case when it comes to governance as well. I don't think this is an exclusive issue to Southeast Asia. If you look in the West as well, they've always had to have this struggle between the elites and the reformists, and then you have all the money lobbyists as well that will influence politics as well. So in a way, it's just that in Thailand, it's a bit more pronounced, I feel, compared to Malaysia, because the military does act. It will act upon any action that they deem is against the status quo. Which, in a way, if we saw what Pita did, he was really pretty much against the status quo. I mean, it was a challenge to a lot of entrenched traditional beliefs and or traditional systems, which was like the less majest laws, which is definitely a big no-no for any kind of discussion in Thai politics. Even though I can understand the sentiment on the road towards democratizing the country, but this leads to another conversation here: is that we like to assume that the democratic experiment is the best way forward for many countries to embrace the modern world and modern ideas and all that. But we can see that it's not a linear path towards democratization. There will always be certain quirks and eccentricities that in countries that never really organically developed it will run into a lot of speed bumps. Thailand is no different. Malaysia is no different. Indonesia is no different as well. I mean, we have elections in practice, but there's a lot of, like you say, behind the wings, behind the closets that will always interfere with those processes. So it's just that we need stronger institutions to counterbalance all these interference. But in Thailand, these are the institutions. The military is the institution that has enough power to determine what they see fit in terms of a prime minister candidate. So in terms of Paetongtarn's prospects as prime minister-elect, she would have to walk a fine line, a very definitive line, so that she does not end up just like Pita as well. She's already asked to relinquish any control over any private companies that's under her name, so to act as a public servant. So that is going to take enough confidence for maybe the people, the old guard. But at the same time, how will she be able to cultivate a good relationship with the monarch as well? The monarch has a strong say as well. The monarch has an executive function over the budget of the annual budget. And the monarch has chosen to administer his duties overseas. He's just passed a law saying that he doesn't have to be in Thailand to rule. He can do that from his estate in Bavaria. So developing a strong relationship with the current king, Vajiralongkorn, who did not attend the ceremony, surprisingly, would be also another consideration for the young prime minister-elect. But who knows? We will see how this relationship develops. Because I think just in the last 2 months, I believe, or earlier this year, the exiled second son of King Ramadat returned to Thailand after 20 plus years. In a way, he came back in and conducted royal duties and his royal process without, as if nothing really happened. Like, it's a normal thing, attending schools that is funded by the monarch, by the royal household. So will this be another sign of another emerging player within the royal institutions? It's very interesting to see.
Yeah, well, also very interesting to see that we after Sreta, we also have Paetongtarn, which is the from Pure Party, that only gained 11 million votes in the last general election, compared to Move Party back then. Now People's Party, they gained around 14 million votes. So the protesters now in Thailand says like, why in their words, why do we have to vote anyway? So just do your thing then. Like you mentioned, the strengthening of institution, the reform. Thailand is one of those countries that really needs it, if you want to talk about. And I think Pita with Move Party came with a very good proposal to reform the government. But I think in the perspective of Thai politics, I think a bit too much, because they go into it and touch the royal subjects. If they were just excluding the royal thing, I think they would get away with it and become the government, and maybe they can change from within, as when Pita already took an oath as a prime minister. Maybe in terms of strategy, the Move Party a bit naive in that sense, but also I think they don't want any luggage, in terms of politics, that creating, hey, they say one thing and then they would do another, and then they would, maybe even more interference when they try to do it when Pita is already in power. So I think they could be, that's the consideration. I'm just reading from the situation here. So basically, Pita is a dead man walking in Thai politics. Now he is banned for 10 years. He cannot run for office for the next two election cycle. But the good thing is Pita is very young. In politics, when he got, after 10 years from now, he may be 52, 53. That's the right age to be a prime minister. So I think maybe there's a new calling for him after 10 years from now, spending his time thinking back, reflecting back what went wrong, and to be a next prime minister of Thai. Remain to be seen, is Paetongtarn to last a year, maybe 2 years, maybe until the next cycle. That remains to be seen as well. As we know, junta have the tendency of not really patient about Thaksin family. So
One step out of line, and that could be it.
Exactly. Knowing that Thaksin back for good now with all the pardon, but he still have a court hearing for his interview in Korea, where he touched of less majest, according to that law as well. So that's another thing. Maybe I think what's important, what's very different this time, that he actually walked into the court into using the front gate, because last time, Adi, he used the back door, and no reporters could take a picture of it. Now he was very confident wearing a yellow shirt, which is the color of the royal family. Then walking in and then answering very confidently in front of the reporters that so hearing whatever, very confident Thaksin. This is Thaksin that we saw 20 years ago. So I think he has something up his sleeve. What it is, I think, let's find out.
Yeah, I think just on the closing, we can see that there's a lot of young upcoming leaders in Southeast Asia. So I want to know, when is it our turn? We see younger people leading. I mean, okay, maybe the oldest is Prabowo, definitely. He's only about 5 years old, 5 years younger than our prime minister. But that might not be a permanent thing. We already see that Joko is already dynasty building. His son quite young as well. We could see probably the next leader for Indonesia. Bongo Marcos is in his mid to late 60s already. Still younger than, still considered a decent age to be a leader of a country. We have Thailand, which is now 30, 37, 38 years old. Younger than what we kind of hope with Pita, who's in his 40s already. And we have Lawrence Wong as well, coming up in Singapore, just turned 50, 51 already. So I think
Cambodia as well. Cambodia son.
Yeah. So in
another
a way,
political dynasty.
Yeah, another political dynasty. But in a way, I think Malaysia's leaders are getting way too old compared to their contemporaries. Playing
Should we
regionally.
expect Nurul Izzah?
Maybe, if following the trend, Nurul Izzah, you never know. Or will we see a comeback from our favorite podcast from Close Kejap? We never know as well. But that would have to do with UMNO, which we'll be covering eventually. So stick around for that.
All right. Coming up next for that episode of Kopitiam Council.